We got my Gamecocks taking on the Kentucky Wildcats. Now let's recap Kentucky first for you. Kentucky went out against Florida this weekend. I covered this game. I watched this game. I did a post game on it because I just picked some random games each week to just cover a post game on. Kentucky went out. They lost 34-10 against Florida. Obviously, Florida's the number 6 team in the country for a reason. That offense is absolutely lethal, and it kind of showed. Kentucky's defense, although that game was very close in the first half, like, don't get me wrong, first quarter and everything, very close game. I'm pretty sure Kentucky was up 10-7 for a good point of that game, and it was until Kentucky decided to kick to Kadarius Toney till everything kind of went downhill. I don't know why you do that. He's one of the most explosive players in all the SEC, so that was a mistake, and Kentucky definitely learned their lesson on that one. Terry Wilson had a very, very bad game. Like, he had a really, really rough game against Florida. He threw for a couple of interceptions. Florida was just playing good defense all day that game. Like, you hold Kentucky to 10 points. I know Kentucky's a weak offensive team, but you hold them to 10 points. Florida's defense was on that day. They got to do better. Like, their defense, Kentucky has a good defense. Like, I haven't really watched Kentucky this year, as again, I talked about this when I was talking about Missouri. They're a team that don't really get those spotlight games. They don't get the CBS games. They don't get the ESPN noon games or whatever. They don't get blah, 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 blah. So I don't really watch them as much. I usually watch, if I'm watching SEC football that's not South Carolina, it's going to be those primetime games. Sometimes a team that I have really been watching this year is Ole Miss. I turned them on for a good point of I think the only Kentucky game that I watched this year so far was the Ole Miss Kentucky game, and I think that was week 2 of SEC football, something like that. And I remember Ole Miss winning in overtime. So I haven't really seen Kentucky enough. I see the analysis on them all the time. Very good defense. They're very strong defensively. I watched the game this weekend. Offense was obviously a huge, huge struggle. Terry Wilson needs to play a lot better. They got their leading receiver is Ali. He had a decent game yesterday. Wasn't anything to write home about. But, like, this whole Kentucky offense as a whole, they just got to have a ton of more guys to step up in this game to be able to compete. South Carolina and Kentucky, these are two struggling teams right now. Let's dive into South Carolina's game that they played last night. I'm filming this on a Sunday, if you didn't know. South Carolina goes out. Luke Doty's the starting quarterback. They are so injured. Injuries on both sides of the ball, opt-outs. They were playing with a whole different team, but we had guys who went out there and played their hearts out, so I cannot complain at all. I'll always take 22 guys that are willing to go out there and play their hearts out rather than 22 guys that are just going to go out there and go through the motions and everything. Even though those players are better, it's more exciting when it's more enjoyable to watch when the players, you actually feel the energy and feel the enthusiasm from them on the field. Luke Doty got the start for the Gamecocks. Offense is really beat up. We are missing Shi Smith, obviously our leading receiver. He was out due to injury. Defensive-wise, we know Izzy dropped out, Izzy McQuamu. We had J.C. Horn drop out. R.J. Broderick dropped out. Kinsley Enagbare was hurt at that game. Jordan Birch was hurt before that game. Ernest Jones got hurt during that game. It was just injuries all over the place, but we were still able. Our defense had a really rough start at the beginning. Towards the second quarter, beginning of the third quarter, we kind of picked it up, but then it wasn't enough to be able to hold Georgia to anything that could have put our offense in a position to score points and win. Luke Doty goes out there, offensive-wise. Obviously, he's missing his top receiver. Nick Muse, he was able to take advantage of him really well. He caught for 131 touchdowns and was able to, not 131 touchdowns, what am I talking about? 131 yards and 1 touchdown in this game. Imagine catching for 131 touchdowns in one game. That would be something special. Speaking of which, Buffalo's running back yesterday ran for 8 touchdowns and like 400-something yards. That's just what happens in the MAC. You got some action going on there. He had a really good game, 8 rushing touchdowns. I'm pretty sure that's a college football record. I remember Arizona State's quarterback a couple of years ago went for 7 touchdowns, and that was like the college football record or something. So he might have beat that. I'm not too sure about that, but Buffalo's running back 8 touchdowns. Obviously not Nick Muse's number of 131 touchdowns in my case, but it is what it is. South Carolina, Luke Doty goes out there. Obviously, we know him for his feet. He's really good at scrambling, making his own plays and everything. But throwing the ball yesterday, he was 18 for 22, I'm pretty sure, and threw for 190 yards. Luke Doty is starting to progress into a throwing QB. Obviously, the game against Missouri, his arm was very, very weak. He had some pretty bad throws. He aired a couple out deep that just did not, they were airmail, didn't even come close. In this game, he actually was hitting his throws, 18 for 22, very, very good number. He hit one deep ball that was really good. It was a double reverse flea flicker. He hit, who was it? I'm pretty sure it was Josh Van or Jalen Brooks, someone out there, or Nick Music. I can't even remember. The game feels so long ago, even though it was just last night, because we lost. Kevin Harris, best running back. I want to say best running back in the SEC, although I know it's Najee Harris. He's the best running back in college football, in my opinion. But Kevin Harris still leads the Gamecocks. He still leads the SEC in rushing this year. He has 900. How much does he have? 928 yards. He's 72 yards away from getting 1,000 this season. In a season where we have Marshawn Lloyd go out due to injury, I thought our rushing game was screwed. But our offensive line in the rushing game has played very well. And Kevin Harris has just stepped up immensely. Holy crap. I doubted him this year. I'm not even going to sit up here and be like, oh, I knew that Kevin Harris was going to be good this season. Y'all just had to give him the chance. I didn't think that. I think because we only saw him last year against like Charleston Southern and those other teams. I think, who else did we play last year? That can't remember if he played a lot during App State, but there are a couple games where we got to see some of him. But I was just like, I don't think he's going to be able to put up these numbers. I doubted him, and boy, has he proved me wrong, and I could not be happier that he proved me wrong, because number 20 for the Gamecocks is an absolute bust. He goes out there, and he'd run guys over. Like, I would not want to get in front of him if I'm a linebacker or cornerback. He's going to run you over. He is a really good running back. Lots of good things from Kevin Harris, and right under him is the other Harris, Najee Harris, for 193 yards rushing in this season. Gamecocks, what are they playing for this season? What are either of these teams playing for this season? Because both of these teams are struggling. Kentucky's 3-6, South Carolina's 2-7. You really don't have anything to play for in this game other than your dignity and your sense of pride or whatever, that I'm going to go out and play this game as hard as I can, because I don't see either of these teams making a bowl game, even though that every single team is eligible for a bowl game this year. Points allowed. Carolina gives up 35 points a game. Kentucky gives up 27. Carolina scores 24 points a game. Kentucky only scores 19. Obviously, I said Kentucky's offense is a huge weakness. In the SEC this year, you've learned that you had to put up a lot of points to compete with teams, and 19.6 points just ain't gonna do it. This game is in Lexington. I talked about it the game before. These toss-up games have always favored the home team this year, even though that there's not really any fans in the stadium. I know Kentucky has some in there. It's tough because I'm a Gamecocks fan. I want to cheer for the Gamecocks. I want to pick them in this game. I think I honestly feel like I am going to pick them in this game, because I just feel like we're playing with some sort of energy right now. I feel like Luke Doty has brought some kind of energy to this locker room that has been contagious, where you just have a ton of guys going out there and playing their absolute hearts out in this game. So I'm really liking where South Carolina's at, even though their defense is really beat up. You're going up against a weaker offensive opponent. The offense has been rolling the last couple of games, even though that the points haven't showed it. We've seen a lot of bright spots in the rushing game, in the passing game, and at quarterback with Luke Doty. I think that the Gamecocks are going to go into Lexington. Mike Bobo's going to be like, boys, let's just go out there. Let's win our last game of the season. It's going to be some guy's last game. As a Gamecock, you're going to have Sedarius Hutcherson. It's going to be his last game. Nick Muse's last game as a Gamecock. Parker White's last game as a Gamecock. I'm guessing Shy's not playing, so that's unfortunate, because I'd love to see him one more time in the Garden and Black. But I am going to take Carolina in this game. I feel like there's just a sense of excitement in this locker room, and they're going to want to push out to go more and get this win against Kentucky. So give me the Gamecocks in this one.